what else is there to even rank in Forsaken at this point? Abilities? Okay, sure. Here's some quick guidelines to establish before I start. First off, the killer's M1s are not included. They would immediately win. It's just kinda dumb. Second, I am ranking these based off of how good they are for yourself, other people. I will be considering cooldowns, reliability, effectiveness, whole 9 yards. And yes, I mixed both survivor and killer abilities into this. This list was very hard to piece together, and I need to adjust just how everything here is based completely off of my own experiences with each character. Some people can have completely different opinions than mine, and that's fine. I'd love to hear some in the comments. So anyway, enjoy the video. Oh, and I'm trying to hit 10,000 subscribers before my birthday on July 3rd, so a subscription would be greatly appreciated around this time. Number 39 is Bloxyola. This is Noob's ability. The reason is arguably the easiest in the whole video to explain. The Bloxyola ability gives you some brief speed for 10 seconds after a few seconds to use it. But why is this apparently so bad? Well, Bloxyola spawns around the map. This is the only ability on the list that can be completely countered simply because, well, you could just live without it, as other Bloxyolas spawn relatively frequently. I mean, there's only 8 survivors max. How often is every Bloxyola even used? But the cherry on top is that the Bloxyolas you find around the map give you speed 2 instead of noobs giving speed 1. So what excuse do you even have at this point? Number 38 is Cool GUI. Hot take, this ability is almost useless. This is 07's teleport ability with a 6-second windup. Look, this is intended to be compared with the clone ability to trick the killer, then pop off a teleport to escape. This gets incredibly contradicted by so many factors. First off, who's falling for clones for so long that you can get this teleport off? It just doesn't happen for how many factors make it easy to separate a clone from a player. 3 out of 4 killers have tracking abilities to quickly check where you are. And once you've begun the teleport, you can't cancel it, so if you're caught, enjoy a mass infection to the face or something. The teleport is arguably really powerful in LMS, if you're against the perfect killer in the best possible map. Also, nobody's gonna leave 07 for last anyway. The teleport is also pathetically useless in some maps, like Assassin's Grounds for my best example. It teleports you somewhere you could probably run to in like 6 seconds. If the killers memorize survivor spawn points, just give up at that point. Number 37 is Inject. Sorry to keep bullying 07 like this, but Inject is barely an ability. You use it to change how your clone acts, and I mean, you can just live without it. Even though the worst of the 3 clone actions, Aimless, is forced upon you without the Inject, I don't know man, it basically isn't an ability and it feels so wrong to place it any higher. Number 36 is Plasma Beam. Dusakar, man, this guy could just not find his place in Forsaken. Plasma Beam is honestly just incredibly mid. It zaps the killer for a few seconds of slowness or gives the survivor speed. First off, always zap the killer, it's way more valuable, but still arguably not great. Despite its really short cooldown, a Plasma Beam from a Dusakar just barely impacts the gameplay of a chase, even if you can land it. Every killer has a way to shake it off, it just isn't great, man. Number 35 is Hatfix. This is simply here because Chance can also live without this ability. Hatfix resets the weakness Chance gains when using his coin flip to use his abilities, but the weakness expires within 15 seconds, so really you will only need to use Hatfix if you're originally planning to use your gun or your reroll, but then you get surprised by the killer and desperately need to save yourself. So it has its healthy place in the meta, but realistically, Chance can live fine without Hatfix, and also it costs 3 whole charges to use and he has such a long cooldown, you will likely only use it once per game. Number 34 is the Tripwire, one of TAF's 2 disposable traps. The Tripwire, when played at its absolute best, will occasionally work. I don't see how it's difficult to predict and or just see where a Tripwire is. It takes 1 M1 to get rid of it, and if you're playing against 1x or John Doe, you can wipe out as many as you want in one sitting. Actually, even Jason can counter TAF with his passive to hit multiple targets at once. Long story short, the Tripwire isn't great, but the punishment of getting hit by one is actually extremely heavy to the killer. Being visible to literally everyone for a significant amount of time will make it extremely easy for a Sentinel stun, and extremely easy for supports to stay at a healthy distance. But yeah, the Tripwire is useful at times, but the second you're against a competent killer, you'll just have to put your life into the trip mine, which appears way higher in this list. Number 33 is Spawn Protection. Sorry Dusakar, but like, maybe I'd feel better about you if people can actually play him better. Spawn Protection's range is not a crutch that makes it good. It cancels behind walls, only stalls the survivor's death, and it's similar to Slate Skin in many ways, but is worse in most of them. People don't even know how to react to Spawn Protection. It feels like a maximum of 10 seconds to delay someone's death just doesn't really work, and that is assuming the entire process goes perfectly. Both survivors need to be perfectly aware of how to react once the ability is used, and you're restricted to stay in a small area that won't cancel the beam. And of course, the killer could just jump scare the Duscar, making him probably the most vulnerable he could possibly be. Talking about spawn protection is basically a representation of what makes Duscar a weak survivor, as this unfortunately is his last ability on the list. Moving on. Well, speaking of Slate Skin, let's look at the pros and cons of why this is better than spawn protection. First, the obvious. It doesn't rely on the actions of two survivors. While it isn't an instant use, this ability makes you pretty much impossible to deal damage to for a little bit of time. In some scenarios, this will stall out the last few seconds of the round, or just be used in a pinch to get an opportunity to at least have equal stamina to the killer. It's versatile, and I like that. The issue? Killers are gimmicky. Gashing Wound, Entanglement, Walk Speed Override, even Corrupt Nature, you name it. This ability gets countered easily. The devs attempted to make a workaround to this, giving Noob the ability to cancel it anytime, but honestly this isn't effective enough in my opinion. How often are you dodging a Gashing Wound for this niche feature? Oh, and the cons when comparing it to spawn protection are how it lasts shorter and it isn't instant. Honestly, these two abilities are surprisingly easy to swap out, but due to versatility, I'm giving it the Slate Skin. Number 31 is Pizza Delivery. This is an interesting spot due to being the first killer ability on this list. And I know, how on earth do you compare a survivor's abilities to a killer's abilities? It was difficult, but reflecting the guidelines as set up in the video's intro, this is how the list ended up. When you think of the concept of pizza delivery, what's not to like? It's two quick minions to patrol around, possibly jump scare survivors to get some free early chip damage, and maybe even be used the trapper to prevent looping. Well, the obvious solution is that these minions are stupid. I don't know if they're bugged, I don't know if it's the recent Pathfind tweaks that messed them up, but 50% of the time, these two just get stuck somewhere or run in place. They're comically unreliable. Number 30 is Block, the guest ability that is incredibly hard to rank because I'm not sure how to interpret it. For example, do I consider the fact that you need this ability to gain a punch? Honestly, I'm crossed on this. The main reason it ended up here is because it just is the most baitable ability in the entire game. While I ended up deciding yes, it is completely required to gain a punch with it, Guest in his 115 HP doesn't rely on this ability to win rounds, especially with charge. It's an odd way to place an ability, but this is just how it ended up. Number 29 is Corrupt Nature, another pretty good cool kit ability. This is a projectile that you could shoot with a pretty wonky hitbox very often. Landing it pretty much makes a survivor extremely vulnerable due to being both visible to the killer and slow, likely resulting in the survivor's death. 15 damage is pretty good too, but this ability's main downside is just how agonizingly hard it is to throw sometimes. The way it follows your cursor is so janky, I need to end up going in the first person just to aim, which never hits. It's good for stopping looping, I suppose, but still, this ability is just hard to use, but you can become unstoppable if you master it. Number 28 is Reroll, another chance ability that you can arguably live without, but you won't get away with it as easily as Hatfix. Reroll is an ability that you can use to reroll your health anywhere from 55 to 130. And statistically, you will not get an optimal amount of health until a couple rerolls in. The issue with this is that Chance is a sentinel, and this is you hiding and rerolling in the corner of the map for what could be over half the round, and then the killer will find you. Chance typically spawns with way below average HP, so reroll is necessary to not make your situation worthless, but I also like to think about how efficient Chance players would be if they didn't hide out in the first minute of the round. But yeah, reroll is tricky to rank as it's either really good or devastatingly bad. Number 27 is Crouch, the first of 2x abilities to appear on the list. Crouch is a bit situational, but surprisingly viable too. Its intentional use is to hide behind walls or short props and then jump scare the killer with the giant dash launch, which it does relatively effectively. With the increase in use of trick stabs, I'd say the meta is shifting away from Crouch, but Crouch also acts like a Ghostburgger to make yourself completely undetectable when the killer tracks you, decently useful. But in general, Crouch is pretty good, but now that 2x has been out, their common strategies tend to not include Crouch unfortunately. Number 26 is Punch. Following up with another guest ability, I honestly didn't really know where to put this one either. You obtain it by hitting a block, and Punch is by far the worst stun in the game, being a pathetic 2 seconds with a wind up extremely easy to react to. That's why 90% of players will be using parries instead. This is when you use your punch immediately after a block, upping the stun to 3.5 seconds and making it way harder to dodge. Again, I don't really know where to rank Punch, it's only a good stun half the times you use it, but it's also very powerful. Number 25 is Dispenser Construction, one of Builderman's 2 buildings. This is undeniably the worst of the two, but I suppose we're at the point on the list where these abilities are starting to get pretty good. The dispenser heals other survivors near it slowly but consistently, around 1 health per second depending on the amount of the Buildermans. Obviously, a 1 HP per second heal is extremely slow, but this is a game where the killer needs to work relatively hard to inflict damage onto anyone, and there's so few healing solutions in the game, this building is always better than nothing. And if you get tapped by a minion or took damage from something random earlier, why not heal a bit? Obviously the dispenser gets 1 tap the second the killer gets near it, but it can still prove to be pretty effective in many situations. Number 24 is Rush Hour. This is Elliot's speed ability, notably the fastest ability in the game, giving you speed 3 for a few seconds. While this ability is pretty much necessary for a character who can not get near the killer with his 80 HP, even though I'd still put this closer to the middle of the list, Rush Hour is honestly just good at best. Its cooldown got nerfed so it isn't as spammable anymore, but I still think it has its place for Elliot and is balanced. Number 23 is Gashing Wound, the first Jason ability to appear on this list. This is the heaviest damage ability in Forsaken, dealing a guaranteed 50 damage to possibly even more than just 1 target. It then knocks the survivor back and gives the survivor a second to get away. Considering this video in terms of a competent server, you will almost never land a Gashing Wound unless by complete surprise on a generator or off of a missed stun from a sentinel. But let me say that again. A free 50 damage upon a missed stun from a sentinel. This is the only killer that can do something like this while delivering the guaranteed damage. But either way, it's hard to rank this as this is completely based off of a survivor's mistake. Also, guests can gain free punches from them, which is really inconvenient. Speaking of guest, number 22 is Charge. It's strange to say that Charge is the best guest ability, but it just makes more sense when writing this video. Charge is probably one of the most versatile survivor abilities in the whole game, and in the hands of a right player, it can be really disturbing to killers. It can knock you back off ledges, fly you off slopes. It can cancel out damage, save other survivors, kill minions, and maybe even offset abilities from the killers. This ability is really easy to hit, and most of the skill goes through in the thought of when you need to use it. This ability is extremely punishing for missing the killer. Slowness 2 for like 10 seconds. Wait, it isn't actually 10 seconds? Hold on, let me just research this. Oh, okay, so the slowness you get is apparently, and I quote, lasts for 3 times guessed distance from the nearest killer divided by 13. There is no way that is real. Number 21 is 404 Error. This is John Doe's tracking ability for those who don't know. It's very simple. It highlights every alive survivor with no trade-offs or anything. It is very useful for John Doe and his needs for trapping, so it does its job and lands around the middle of the list. It is the most reliable and most convenient tracking ability of the 3, but the gimmicks that Raging Pace and Unstable Eye have is what put it above 404 Error. But yeah, it does its job. I don't know what else to say. Speaking of which, number 20 is Unstable Eye. Alright, Unstable Eye isn't that much better. It's like an extremely gimmicky version of 404 Error, inflicting blindness 3 and gives some extra speed. This is a trade-off that you need to decide if it's better or worse than 404 Error. I think it is better, as the speed is usually always worth it. It activates quicker, and the blindness is only an issue in some scenarios. Sometimes you won't be able to see a sentinel action like a guest block, but the positives outweigh the negatives here. Number 19 is Digital Footprint. Staying in the killer's abilities, Digital Footprint is John Doe's one of 2 extremely useful trapping abilities. This is a giant circular trap on the ground that can be sometimes hidden and block off significant areas of the map to make your job easier as a killer. The punishment of walking into Digital Footprints is extremely harsh. Slows you down harshly, deals a lot of damage, speeds up the killer. Walking into this is a guaranteed death for you, or maybe even screwing over somebody else getting chased. You can place up to 3 of these, which last well over a minute, which is really good. This is the point of the list where the abilities start to get really useful. Number 18 is Raging Pace. Okay, last killer tracking ability. Not sure why they all appear so close to one another, but Raging Pace is definitely the best of the 3. It only tracks 1 player, but it has so many buffs to it. First of all, it is a lifesaver to regain your stamina during chases. You don't go too fast while using this ability, but it's so useful when in a pinch. Oh yeah, did I mention it launches you when canceling and buffs literally all of your other abilities? The trade-off of only focusing on 1 survivor is extremely harsh, obviously, but this ability is balanced really well nonetheless. Number 17 is Ghostburgger, finally ending the streak of killer abilities. Ghostburgger is Noob's best ability by far in my opinion. Its entire history is just buff after buff after buff, which is how it ended up here. It now gives invisibility 4 for a pretty significant amount of time, a relatively short cooldown, and you can just move freely while using it, and it makes you completely undetectable. Just, it's hard to grasp how good invisibility 4 is when you look in situations like this. You can also now combine it with Slate Skin to make it the most comical invisibility technique in Forsaken now. Like, what even is this? Number 16 is One Shot. Chance's Stun. This stun has so many ups and downs, I didn't really know where to put it. First, the obvious. It's a ranged stun. It's a flintlock. Cancels abilities extremely easily, no punishment if missing, and it isn't hard to argue why it's so good. Oh yeah, but it's chance, so obviously the gun isn't the most reliable thing ever. It explodes, it doesn't work, it screws you over. Now, any sane person wouldn't shoot unless they have 3 charges, but it can still happen, and the farther away the strike is, the shorter the stun is. Yeah, both of these drawbacks is what is somehow making this a somewhat balanced ability. I think it's a little bit concerning just how good it is to cancel abilities nonetheless from such a safe distance, so that's why I put it around this spot on the list. Also, it has a really generous cooldown for the gimmick. Number 15 is the Subspace Trip Mine. I don't care what people say about Taft, the buffs his ability received make it so good. It inflicts either extremely bright blindness or completely destroys your sight depending on if you have epilepsy mode on. But the most notable debuff is the Helpless. It's hard enough to stay locked onto a survivor when your camera jerks the other way, while hardly being able to see, but the 5 seconds of Helpless makes you completely useless anyway. You are insanely vulnerable to stuns now, like 2 times backstabs, so this ability is so good. You can now notably have 2 trip mines down at once, and in some scenarios even get hit through walls. The devs knew this and gave the trip mine many debuffs. First, it's hard to place them where you want it to go, and it also inflicts tap if close enough. It emits light and sound every now and then to signal to the killer it's there. And of course, once the killer knows about the trip mine, they could just swing at it and basically completely get rid of the debuffs inflicted upon them. So yeah, it has a lot of counters, but a good tap player can make this mine absolutely insane. Number 14 is Walk Speed Override. What, did you expect to see this in top 5? Oh, well, too bad because it got a nerf. Never mind, I probably can't say that. Yeah, nobody can agree if this ability got a buff, a nerf, or a rework. It's no longer a free guaranteed 35 HP that the survivor can't dodge in a chase, but more like a surprise factor or punishment ability. This rework made it so hard to rank, but I think 14th just feels right. I honestly don't know what else to say about Walk Speed Override. Number 13 is Behead. Do people actually think this ability isn't good? It's just a better slash which launches you forward, and it is very hard to dodge when up against a good Jason. And of course, it gives how much Helpless? This ability is just so good. It's just a gigantic slash every now and then that forces the survivor to just attempt it to run. What's not to like? Number 12 is Corrupt Energy. Okay, this might be a little bit too high, as this is coming from a Milestone 4 John Doe player anyway. I will always say that this ability is extremely good when played correctly. Very easy chip damage, and you can completely screw over survivors if used well, and combined with digital footprints can be very valuable. Trapping survivors with this ability is very, very punishing and makes it almost impossible to wriggle their way out of. But it's also very notable that a failed Corrupt Energy, like accidentally creating a gap in between your spikes, completely screws you over if the survivor knows how to punish your mistakes. These spikes can be extremely easy to loop around and even hide behind if you're playing 2-time. It becomes extremely punishing if used wrong, but extremely rewarding if used correctly. But we're at the point on the list where abilities just can't be having these giant debuffs. Number 11 is Ritual. This ability is what gives 2-time the ability to respawn. Without this, they would just be an 80 HP Streletsky with harder to land stuns and a worse healing ability. You could bring this back to the previous argument of 2-time can just live without this ability, which is true, but in this scenario where I can reflect just how insanely good this ability is when used correctly. This ability also makes 2-time very good in LMS for giving them sometimes 110 HP and hopefully teleporting them far away. I don't know what else to say. Ritual makes up the gimmick of 2-time and shapes how you even interpret this character. Number 10 is Slash. Moving into the top 10 is arguably one of the simplest abilities in the game. Streletsky slashes, it hits the killer, stuns them, and then you run away. What else is there to say? This stun is simple, it has a reliable hitbox, and it misses and lands a perfect amount of time each. A fair cooldown, a deserving stun, extremely solid ability here. Again, what else is there to say? Number 9 is Mass Infection. These abilities are starting to get really good in the top 10 now, and Mass Infection is the staple ability for 1X. It is simply a giant projectile dealing massive damage that you can shoot straight through walls. It has an extremely loud sound effect to signal to all survivors that it's coming, but can be used extremely surprisingly when coming from behind a wall. When used up close and combined with Entanglement, this is one of the scariest ability combos in Forsaken, and otherwise it is pretty tricky to dodge anyway. The ability is just way too powerful to not put into the top 10, and players with good prediction skills are extremely busted with this ability. Number 8 is Chance's Favor. Okay, genuine question, how do I rank this? This is the ability that gives Chance his character, or in other words, this is the ability that screws him over with the weakness you gain from using it. So this is like asking the extremely stupid question of, is Chance better with or without his own abilities? This is a really dumb way to interpret how an ability works, but I mean, without it, Chance is just a lower health survivor who runs around and does nothing. It's just so hard to rank because it's the only staple ability of a character that is actively negative to their survival as a whole. But it isn't something like top 3, as every ability above this is in need of a nerf in my opinion, and this is where they start to get way too good. Number 7 is Clone, and maybe except for this one, Clone is a great ability. It serves as the purpose as the staple ability for 007 and basically creates this entire character. Clone sends out a clone of 07, which can run in 3 different patterns depending on what you choose in using Inject. Aimless is almost pointless to ever use, Cursor is what you use when you're not in a chase, and Pathfind is what you strategically use when you swiftly turn a corner, and letting the clone run in the direction of the Pathfind. This is such a busted strategy, the killer almost always initially falls for it. Unfortunately, Forsaken has several ways to distinguish a clone from a survivor, such as music and or stamina stopping, or of course the health bar. But these drawbacks don't make the clone anywhere near pointless though, and with its short cooldown and extremely high skill ceiling, the right players with their hands on this ability are monsters. Number 6 is Fried Chicken. This is the second of Shaletsky's abilities that is also extremely simple. I just like to think that this ability is a bit too much. A 35 HP heal that only takes a couple seconds to use that heals over time is just so good. It entirely changes on how you need to chase your Shaletsky, and getting stunned by anyone, even if it isn't the one that you're literally chasing, gives the survivor enough time to heal to 35. That is so good. It doesn't matter how long of a cooldown it is, the ability to heal so easily and so quickly, so much, it is just insanely useful. I don't know what else to tell you. Number 5 is Sentry Construction. Finally, the second building from Builderman, and this one absolutely deserves top 5 abilities in Forsaken. Once it's down, it is a guaranteed lose-lose situation that you force the killer into. Not bothering to spend the agonizing 5 seconds to destroy it will send the survivors looping around you and give you an infinite supply of slowness too. You have to destroy the sentry, and the amount of time this grueling task takes is really impactful. Oh, but you can just destroy it with an ability like Mass Infection. Sorry, let me rephrase that. You're using your most powerful ability for the sentry a Builderman can just replace over there. Number 4 is Rejuvenate the Rotten. Okay, hold on, I know, how the hell is this top 5? I would have said the exact same thing if I didn't really interpret it before making this ranking. This ability spawns up to 7 zombies that don't die upon damage, which gives you speed when killing, which are highlighted on the map, even helping you find survivors. Up to maybe even twice per round. This ability is insane when you really think about it. The zombies are genuinely good at their job. Due to their AI not being all about immediately finding survivors and going straight toward them, they have a sight so they won't just walk in place and then go away. An underrated 1x strategy is to summon a few zombies early on when the first few survivors are killed, and then use the ability at the start of LMS for the most value. I've seen last man standing situations with up to 10 zombies sprinkled around the map. People do not understand this ability's potential despite its 3.5 minute cooldown. Number 3 is Entanglement. Yeah, another 1x ability which makes it the top 10. Entanglement is just a mass infection better in almost any way. Hear me out. This ability is essentially a silent mass infection which pauses the survivor to pretty much guarantee the second hit, which does almost the same amount of damage as a mass infection when you add them up. These two abilities are extremely powerful when combined together, but I see Entanglement as the better of the two because it's way quicker and giving the killer extremely good buffs such as speed and detectability of such survivor. This ability is just way too good if you're up close as well. Number 2 is the Sacrificial Dagger. Shaletsky slash, but better in every way. Seriously, what else do I say? People are getting so insanely good at trick stabs, they're becoming so difficult to dodge even when fully acknowledging a 2-time sneaking up on you. I interpret the dagger as this. A shorter cooldown, ranged, quick slash with an equal stun that heals and gives the 2-time respawn capabilities. Look, I completely understand that not every stab is a backstab. Otherwise, it is a short duration of helpless and slowness, which is honestly pretty good in itself. But yeah, people are getting so good at this ability that I just can't say that this is absolutely crazy and definitely deserves top 2. Because number 1 is Pizza Throw. The best ability in Forsaken is none other than Elliot's Heal. To explain it as simply as possible, this is just another instant 35 HP from a range. The heal is an instant 15 HP and then 20 over a short period of time, which is so much health for something that is so quick and can be thrown from a range, even while being chased. There aren't any stupid, wild gimmicks of what makes this ability overpowered at all. It is just simply extremely useful. Elliot is a perfectly designed character to be able to escape with Rush Hour instantly, so pretty much this entire character is based around Elliot healing and escaping. And boy does the pizza throw ability make a difference. It is a universal agreement to kill Elliot early on because of how disturbing this character is, entirely because of the single ability. The passives of both Food being lit up and easy to see on the map, and Elliot being immediately directed toward whoever is damaged is the cherry on top. Pizza Throw is, in my opinion, the best ability in Forsaken. And that is it. This whole video took so long to make. I'm glad to finish up with this project. I gotta say, I was shocked by just how much there was to say about abilities. The fact that there's a grand total of 43, minus the 4 M1s from the killers, is just crazy to think about. But that's it for me, so I hope you have a good day.